Hello, and welcome to Classic Country Backstories. I'm Colleen Gallagher. This lady needs no build-up. She's one of the greatest country singers ever. Today, we're going to talk about Connie Smith.
Nashville, Tennessee, country music capital of the world, home of the Grand Ole Opry, where singers and dreamers come seeking stardom. Join me as we learn about the lives and careers of those who built this town on Classic Country Backstories.
Born Constance June Metter, August 14, 1941, in Elkhart, Indiana. Her parents were Hobart and Wilma Metter. Her parents were originally from West Virginia, and the family returned when Connie was just 5 months old. Her parents divorced, and Connie's mother later married Tom Clark. Tom played mandolin, and Connie's brother played fiddle, while another played guitar. The family listened to the Grand Ole Opry on Saturday nights. Connie learned to play guitar while recuperating from a lawnmower accident in which she almost lost her leg. She's the sixth of 14 children, raised in West Virginia and Ohio. Connie first performed in public in high school when a friend invited her to sing My Happiness, a Connie Francis pop hit. Connie graduated salutatorian from Salem Liberty High School in 1959. She went on to work as a telephone operator in Lowell, Ohio. She also worked as a drugstore clerk, a dental assistant, and in a grocery store. In 1961, 19-year-old Connie married Jerry Smith. Her first professional performance was in 1962 at the Washington County Fair. For a short time, she joined the cast of the Saturday Night Jamboree, a local country music television program. She went on to a similar program on WSAZ TV. On March 9, 1963, Connie gave birth to her son, Darren. In 1963, she and her husband, Jerry, went to see Grand Ole Opry star Bill Anderson perform at the Frontier Ranch Park in Columbus. She was talked into entering a talent contest. Connie won $5 silver and a chance to meet Bill Anderson, who was judging the contest. He was impressed with her voice. Anderson once said that when he first heard her voice, he thought she was lip-syncing to a record. Connie Smith and Bill Anderson met again during a country music package show in Canton, Ohio, on New Year's Day, 1964. Bill asked her to appear on Ernest Tubbs' Midnight Jamboree in March that year. He invited her to come back in June and record some demos. Chet Atkins signed her to RCA Records. A month later, she recorded a Bill Anderson penned song, Once a Day. It was released in August, and it went to the top of the Billboard Hot Country Singles chart by November of 1964. She was the first female vocalist whose debut single went to number 1. Once a Day remained at the top of the charts for 8 weeks and was nominated for a Grammy for Best Country Female Vocal. Record producer Bob Ferguson and steel guitarist Weldon Myrick created a high and punchy production that Ferguson thought would sound good on car radios. Myrick was concerned that the sound would be too thin, but it ended up being very popular. Her debut album topped the Billboard Country charts for 7 weeks. Her Opry debut was on July 18, 1964. Then Connie made her first network television performance on The Jimmy Dean Show in October of 1970. On October of 1964, RCA released her second single, Then and Only Then, also written by Bill Anderson. The song reached number 4 on the Billboard chart. It was followed up by another top 10 written by Anderson called I Can't Remember. The song later appeared on Connie's second album, Cute and Country. The album also climbed to the top of the Billboard chart. She was inducted into the Grand Ole Opry on August the 21st, 1965. Roy Acuff called her the sweetheart of the Grand Ole Opry. She continued to have more top 5 hits with Bill Anderson's Nobody But a Fool, Priscilla Mitchell's If I Talk to Him, and others through early 1966. She also divorced Jerry Smith in 1966. The same year, RCA began to push Bob Ferguson to market Connie's sound to the middle-of-the-road country pop material. Ferguson was against the idea but finally agreed to it. He did several sessions with Connie and stringed instrumentation. Connie's next 2 albums, Born to Sing in 1966 and Downtown Country in 1967, featured full orchestras and included cover tunes of pop artists of the time. From these albums came Ain't Had No Lovin' and The Hurtin's All Over, which both became top 5 songs on the Billboard Country Singles chart. During this time, Smith appeared in several country music films performing her current hits. In 1966, she appeared in Second Fiddle to a Steel Guitar and Las Vegas Hillbillies. The latter film starred Jane Mansfield. In 1967, she appeared in The Road to Nashville and Hell on Wheels. During this time, Connie's touring schedule also began to increase. She formed her own band named the Sundowners. Then she married the band's guitar player, Jack Watkins. They had one son. They divorced the following year. In February 1967, RCA subsidiary label Camden released Connie's next studio album titled Connie in the Country. The LP included popular country records of the time, along with Cry, 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 a single that reached the top 20. In May, Connie Smith released an album of songs all penned by Bill Anderson, titled Connie Smith Sings Bill Anderson. Connie later went on to say it was an honor, not a favor, to record an album of Anderson tunes. The album covered such Anderson songs as City Lights and That's What It's Like to Be Lonesome. On the album, Connie also recorded Cincinnati, Ohio, which was released as a single and earned another top 5 for Smith and Anderson. This later inspired the city of Cincinnati to declare a Connie Smith Day in June of 1967. Smith continued throughout '67 with a series of top 10 recordings. Some of the hits were I'll Come Runnin', Burning a Hole in My Mind, Baby's Back Again, and Runaway Little Tears. 3 of the hits were part of Smith's 1967 album, I Love Charlie Brown, which went to top 20 on album charts. By 1968, Connie Smith was trying her best to balance her family and career. She was making frequent television appearances and touring extensively. She found Christianity, which brought her solace. She made the decision to slow down her touring and record only every few months so that she could focus on raising her 5 children and spending more time in her church. In the early 70s, as Connie was growing deeper into Christianity, she began to record more gospel songs on her albums. She also began to perform on more Christian programs. In 1968 and '69, she recorded the albums Sunshine and Rain, Back in Baby's Arms, and Connie's Country. On one of the LPs, she released a cover of a Marty Robbins song, Ribbon of Darkness. The song reached the top 20 Billboard Country Singles chart. This song became her first to reach the top of Canada's RPM charts. While entering the 70s, Connie spent less time on the Billboard charts, but continued to have commercial success. Her singles You and Your Sweet Love and I Never Once Stopped Lovin' You, both written by Bill Anderson, reached the Billboard Country Top 10 chart in 1970. Her 15th studio album, I Never Once Stopped Lovin' You, was also released in 1970 and made it to the top 20 of the Billboard Country charts. Connie teamed up with Nat Stuckey to record 2 duet albums. The duo recorded a version of Sonny James' Young Love, which reached the Billboard's top 20. The album with the same title features covers of popular pop and country songs. The duo then recorded a gospel album, Sunday Morning, with Nat Stuckey and Connie Smith. Christian programs often open their shows with the duo's music. RCA released If God Is Dead, Who's That Living in My Soul as a single in 1970. The song went to the lower end of Billboard's country charts. In the early 70s, Smith began to record songs written by Dallas Frazier. The two had become friends, and Dallas began writing songs that reflected situations in her personal life. Where Is My Castle was autobiographical of Connie's recent marital troubles. Where Is My Castle reached top 20 on both Billboard and RPM country charts. Connie met 11-year-old Marty Stewart. He told his mother that one day he was going to marry her. In 1971, RCA released the single Just One Time, a cover of a Don Gibson song. The song went all the way to number 2 on the Billboard and RPM country charts, becoming her most successful single of the 1970s. Her 18th studio album of the same name made it to number 14 on the country album charts, featuring liner notes written by Loretta Lynn. In 1971, Connie was among RCA's top-selling artists. She recorded another gospel album, Come Along and Walk With Me. The album featured songs written by spiritual writers such as Dottie Rambo. She married Marshall Haynes in 1972, and the couple had 3 daughters. She had 3 back-to-back top singles on the Billboard charts, Just For What I Am, If It Ain't Love, and Love Is the Look You're Looking For. The songs were from 3 separate albums, Ain't We Having Us a Good Time in 1972, If It Ain't Love, and Other Great Dallas Frazier Songs in 1972, and Love Is the Look You're Looking For in 1973. Her most commercially successful album was If It Ain't Love and Other Great Dallas Frazier Songs, which made it to number 14 on the Billboard Country Album Charts. The album included 10 songs written by Dallas Frazier as a tribute to him. Dallas also sang several duets with Connie on the project. Before Connie left RCA, the label released more LPs, including Dream Painter in 1973. In 1973, after a contract dispute, Connie left RCA Records. She then signed with Columbia. The label gave her more creative control and promised that she could record one gospel album a year. Originally, Connie was to be produced by Clive Davis, but he left the label before it came to fruition, and Billy Sherrill signed on as her producer. However, that did not work either. George Ritchie began to produce Connie. Ritchie had recent success writing material for George Jones and Tammy Wynette. At Columbia, Smith was pressured with even more pop production. However, she was still given more reign with the song selection and the recording process. Her first album for Columbia was titled A Lady Named Smith. The album included a pop production such as a string section and overdubbed background vocals. The album reached 31 on the Billboard album charts. George Ritchie agreed to release Ain't Love a Good Thing as her first single. But the single actually released was the Ritchie-Smith co-written song, You Got Me Right Where You Want Me. Connie was so disappointed that she decided to end their professional relationship. The last Ritchie-produced album of Connie's was her first gospel album for Columbia, God Is Abundant. The album climbed to the top 20 position of the Billboard album charts. Connie chose Ray Baker as her next producer. The pair got along well and continued to work through the next decade. That's the Way Love Goes was released in 1974. The album included Ain't Love a Good Thing, which was released as a single and became her 18th top 10 on the Billboard Country Single Chart. In 1974, Columbia released an album titled I Never Knew. The title track became a top 20 single, peaking at the number 13 position. It was followed in 1975 by a traditional album called I Got a Lot of Hurtin' Done Today. I've Got My Baby on My Mind and Connie's version of Hank Williams' Why Don't You Love Me Like You Used to Do both climbed to the country top 20. The first gospel album Columbia released in 1975 was Connie Smith Sings Hank Williams Gospel. For this album, Smith and her producer Bob Ferguson combed through a catalog of Hank Williams songs that had never been released. The result was the first album of Hank Williams songs ever recorded by another artist. In 1976, the album was nominated for a Grammy for Best Gospel Performance. The second gospel album released in 1975 was a Christmas album, Joy to the World. In 1976, Columbia released two more Connie Smith country albums, The Song We Fell in Love To and I Don't Want to Talk It Over Anymore. Both albums peaked in the top 40. Singles I Don't Want to Talk It Over went to number 13 on the country chart, and a remake of the Everly Brothers classic Till I Kissed Ya made it to the top 10. This song also made it to the top of the Canadian RPM charts. In 1977, Connie Smith moved to Fred Foster's Monument Records. There, she was pressured into recording more pop country songs than ever before. She was even given singing lessons by a songwriter. Monument released two albums during 77 and 78. The only commercial success Smith had with these projects was the cover of an Andy Gibb song, I Just Want to Be Your Everything. The single climbed to number 14 on the Billboard country charts. Other songs charted lower. As a result of her unhappiness with the label and the pressures of having 5 children at home, Connie Smith went into semi-retirement and spent time raising her children and attending church. For the next 3 years, she committed to only performances at the Grand Ole Opry, where she remained a member. She only performed gospel songs when she sang on the Opry as well. In 1983, Connie Smith re-signed with Monument Records. However, she left the label after they filed bankruptcy. With the help of Ricky Skaggs, Connie signed with Epic Records. Her first single, A Far Cry From You, was released in 1985. The song was written by Steve Earle. It reached 71 on the Hot Country charts. She went through a divorce with Marshall Haynes in 1992. In 96, Connie Smith returned to her career in country music. With Marty Stewart as her producer, she signed with Warner Brothers. The label wanted her to do an album of duets, but she decided she wanted to record a solo album. Marty Stewart married Connie Smith in 1997. In 1998, she released her second self-titled album, Connie Smith, on Warner Brothers. The LP included 10 tracks. 9 of them were co-written by Connie and Marty. In 2003, Connie released a gospel album with friends Barbara Fairchild and Sharon White titled Love Never Fails on Day One Records, produced by country singer and husband of Sharon White, Ricky Skaggs. The song was nominated for a Dove Award. Connie continued to tour occasionally with the Sundowners and perform on the Grand Ole Opry. From 2008 through 2014, Connie Smith could be seen making regular appearances on RFD TV's The Marty Stewart Show. In August of 2011, Connie released her first solo album in 13 years, titled Long Line of Heartaches, on Sugar Hill Records. The album was also produced by Marty Stewart. The couple co-wrote 5 of the tunes. Other songs were written by Johnny Russell, Harlan Howard, and Dallas Frazier. Also in 2011, Connie Smith was inducted into the West Virginia Music Hall of Fame. March of 2021, the Library of Congress added Once a Day to the National Recording Registry. On August 2021, Connie released The Cry of the Heart on Fat Possum label. This was the third project produced by Marty Stewart and her first album of original material in 10 years. Critics raved about the project. Pop Matters gave the album an 8 out of 10 rating and concluded, if you wanted to understand what traditional country is, you could go to the same place today as you could have gone 50 years ago, a Connie Smith record. She was nominated for 11 Grammys, including 8 nominations for Best Female Country Performance, as well as CMA and ACM awards. Connie Smith was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2012. Rolling Stone named Connie on their list of 100 greatest country artists. CMT counted her number 10 of the top 40 greatest women of country music. George Jones cited Connie Smith as his favorite singer in his biography, George Jones, I Live to Tell It All. Elvis Presley had several Connie Smith albums in his personal collection at Graceland. In April of 2024, Fat Possum label released a surprise project of Connie Smith entitled Love, Prison, Wisdom, and Heartaches. She has been a member of the Grand Ole Opry for almost 60 years. She continues to perform frequently on the Opry. Connie Smith is one of the reasons I began performing, and I will always be grateful for her and her music because it helped me shape my life in music. Make sure to go find some Connie Smith. She's just fantastic. Thanks for listening to another episode of Classic Country Backstories. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the bell button for notifications. And by the way, feel free to leave me a comment about an episode or an idea of a traditional country artist you'd like to see. Until next time, God bless, take care, and I'll see you later.